Hello and welcome back. Those of you that have watched Larian Studios' recent Panel from Hell 5th Edition live show will probably know that I actually got to physically be in the show myself.
Wow. So let's see. There he is, the one and only Wolfheart, who is going to step in as our Barbarian of the day.
Sorry about that. Anyone who doesn't know what a Panel from Hell is, it's basically a live show that Larian Studios puts on, I don't know, every 3 to 4 months, maybe 5 months, to get fans excited about an upcoming patch for Baldur's Gate 3's early access. And they also usually talk a bit about the overall game's development and how it's coming along. Of course, these live shows can be marketing things, but perhaps even more importantly, they are a way that the game devs can show their passion for their game, and also let us, the audience, see some of the faces and personalities behind this massive RPG project. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my personal experience of not only just being in the Panel from Hell, which is in many ways a dream come true, but also just being in Larian Studios and interacting with the devs and seeing how they operate. I'll of course also talk a little bit about being in Ghent, Belgium, because believe it or not, that was my first time ever setting foot on European soil. So first things first, how did all of this happen? Well, the funny thing is, I was the one to actually message someone on the Larian PR team, and do note that I'm not going to give away personal names in this video, except for Sven. And I reached out to them to ask for an updated contact because I knew that Larian had recently gone through some changes in their public relations department. And within just a couple messages back and forth, I was asked if I wanted to be in the Panel from Hell. It was just a coincidence that I happened to reach out to them at this time. At first glance, upon reading this message, I just assumed that this would be a webcam appearance, which would have been super cool and really exciting for myself. But after double taking the message, it did say in Belgium. So after frantically pacing in my room for about 2 minutes, I ended up having a video chat, and yeah, they wanted me to fly over to Belgium to be in the Panel from Hell 5. And the catch was that the panel was basically a week from the day of us having this video chat. But without hesitation, I just said yes, and then next thing you know it, on Saturday of that same week, I'm up in the air flying over to Europe for my first time. Now, it was very easy to say yes because I knew that this would be something I would never forget, and also getting to meet the devs behind the game that essentially started a new career for myself would absolutely be a pleasure and an honor. And also I was very curious just to see how they operate and meet everybody in person to see if this company really is the company that most of us think that they might be. I also can't leave out that I owe it to you guys, my subscribers, to bring a little fun to the channel when the opportunity arises and show you guys what you made possible for myself. Because without this community and all of you guys that are regulars on this channel and you know who you are, there's absolutely no way that I would have been invited over. To make things even easier to say yes, Larian said that they would take care of all expenses and also organize everything for me. So essentially it was a stress-free trip. But before I get into the details of the Panel from Hell and being at the Larian headquarters, I do want to just make it clear to those of you guys that have any trust in me that I have never been paid a single penny by Larian Studios. Now, I did get this free vacation in a way, I guess you could say, so you can take that as you will. But in terms of being paid to do videos, because I do see comments like this sometimes, it's not only just against YouTube's terms of service, but it's also actually illegal, according to the Federal Trade Commission. If you take money to talk about a product, you have to disclose that you took money. Now, I know that I'm not particularly the most morally good character when I'm playing RPGs, but IRL, I promise you guys, I don't break the law too often, at least not that I know of, and I've worked really hard to get the channel to where it's at right now, and I'm certainly not going to risk it over some side money. And if I'm not going to risk it, do you really think that a company like Larian Studios would risk that? You're out of your damn mind if you think that. But moving on, I arrived in the Brussels airport at 7:15 a.m. on Sunday, which was midnight back in New York. So it was quite a weird time to arrive because I would normally be going to bed at that time. But knowing that I was in Europe for the first time, I said screw going to sleep, and I had a day out enjoying the city and also my hotel, because as you guys can see in this video, I was gifted with a very, very nice room, a room that I felt underdressed for especially when going to the bar to drink some Belgium beer, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Very, very beautiful hotel, and it looks right out onto a busy street in Ghent, right near the St. Michael's Church, which was really beautiful, and the St. Michael's Bridge. I won't get too much into exploring the city of Ghent because I know a lot of you guys on my channel are from Europe, so it's not really as exciting for you. But Ghent was a really beautiful medieval looking city, and it just has so much amazing architecture, so many amazing churches and medieval castles. I even got to see the castle that the panel from Hell 4 was filmed in, and it's called Gravenstein or Gravenstein, and I took a tour of it. Really cool. So much history. It kind of makes me depressed to come back to where I'm at in New York, but Ghent was an amazing city. You can basically walk anywhere that you need to walk, and there's a couple canals going through the city, which we don't really have too much in the USA, where you can take a boat taxi to get to somewhere. Phenomenal experience, and I would love to come back to Belgium sometime and take a look at some of the other cities as well. Later on in the day, I returned to my hotel room, and I just couldn't help it, and I fell asleep for like 5 hours and woke up at 8 or 9 at night. And one of the devs that flew over from the UK studio actually came over to my hotel, and we had a few beers at the bar. I tasted some of my first true Belgian beers, and they were absolutely delicious. And then other than that, I went to bed and woke up the next day, explored the city a little bit more in the morning, and then I finally got the text to come to the studio in the early afternoon to start getting prepared for the panel from Hell. Larian Studios was about a 13 to 15 minute walk from my hotel, and of course I loved walking there and just seeing more architecture. And then I finally arrived, and I was a little bit nervous, but I also really wasn't that nervous at the same time, if that makes sense. From watching videos and talking to some of the devs and the PR team before coming, I just kind of had a feeling that many of these people were just good people, and for some reason I could feel that when I walked up to the studio. And immediately when I walked in, somebody came out to greet me and give me some directions, and I went to the break room and talked to a bunch of the devs in there, and the next thing you know, Sven walks in, introduces himself, takes me up to his office. I wasn't in trouble. I thought I was getting in trouble at first. And we sat down, and I got to try out patch 7 with Sven, which was just really, really cool. Sven is the owner of Larian Studios and the creative director, a fan of RPGs, and this was very, very clear when I was with him. So we stayed in his office for about a half an hour to 40 plus minutes, and he stayed there the entire time with me and just walked me through patch 7 and let me play it a little bit, pointed out some of the UI feature changes, and he was just a really friendly, down-to-earth guy. And it was a really good start to the trip to have it start that way. Now, of course, it's important to at least keep in mind that it is in Larian's best interest to give me a good trip while I'm over there, because I am a content creator, and even though I'm not that big, I do have some reach within the RPG or Baldur's Gate community. So if I have a bad image of their company, of course that's going to work back negatively on them. But I will tell you guys, throughout this entire trip, I was there for a decent amount of time at the studio on both days, and I was around in places where people didn't even know I was standing there, and I heard conversations, and I know who the Absolute is. So let me tell you I'm just kidding, I'm not going to tell you. I don't know who the Absolute is, but I heard things going on, and I could see how this company operates and how they treat each other and how Sven treats his employees. There's of course really no way for me to know how everything really goes down as an outsider only being there for 2 days, but you can kind of sense when you're seeing interactions that are not genuine, and I just didn't get that sense. From the moment that I walked in the front door, I just felt comfortable and good, if that makes sense to you guys. So after that, I returned to the break room, which became my temporary office because I didn't want to get in the way of the panel from Hell. The whole first floor of Larian Studios is just torn up for it. It's really cool. It's a pretty big production, but also let me tell you guys that even though the panel from Hell takes up some time and resources, there's still a ton of employees at Larian Studios, especially in the other studios, that are just working like normal. And even at the Ghent studio, there's just a ton of employees that were in and out. 4 or 5 o'clock came, a bunch of them leave, and they weren't even involved in the panel. They're just working on the game. Now, some of you guys are probably wondering why I don't have a lot of GoPro footage of the studio, and there's a couple reasons for this. The first reason is I didn't want to ruin my experience by trying to film everything. And the second reason, and perhaps even more importantly, is that I didn't want to come across as someone who was there to just try to get content for my channel. It was really cool to be invited over. It was a blessing to be over there, and I'm not going to just stick the GoPro everywhere I go. And, you know, people are working. It's just uncomfortable to have somebody around just filming everything, so I just didn't even do it. But perhaps sometime in the future, I'll organize a proper tour for you guys, and then maybe get like a real tour of Larian Studios, and I'll be able to provide some content like that. So I hung out in the break room for a good amount of the day, but Larian did not just force me in there. I was able to get up and walk around the first floor and watch them as they're setting things up. But the best thing about being in the break room is that it's the break room, everybody's favorite room. So almost every single Larian employee that was working on that day at some point came into the break room, and they all introduced themselves to me. And I didn't even have one bad interaction, or even one interaction where I felt uncomfortable, which is just weird because there's always going to be somebody that just doesn't, you know, sit right with your personality. And this just didn't happen. And I met everybody from interns to the higher ups, the head of production, just a lot of really great people, a lot of great conversations. And I was so happy that I actually stayed in the break room because of that reason. Now, for the rest of the day, not too much went on in terms of me, although we did a little bit of rehearsal. Even though the panel from hell is not scripted, there's still some form of plan as to what we're going to do in the game and what they're going to talk about when they're at the table, of course. But
okay, why did you get into a fight?
I'm in combat right now, but
oh no,
I can probably.
All right, well, let's try to kill him, and let's try not to get all the other goblins to come to us, shall we?
Okay, all right.
Immediately derailed.
All right.
Oh, great. Critical strength. I'm gonna need help from a wizard.
You guys are doing okay there?
It's really easy going, and actually, when we were talking about what we're going to do in the game, I pulled out some notes and started to write some notes, and Sven was like, no, don't do that. We want you just to be who you are and just enjoy the game. And hearing that just kind of put me at ease a little bit, because you guys know me, I do a lot of scripted content, and just knowing that this was just laid back, and even if I just said something weird or awkward, it was going to be okay, was a big relief, and made me more excited to be there. So later that night, I went out to eat with some members on the PR team, and one member who's not on the PR team. And if you're watching this video, you're going to be happy that I said that, but I'm not going to shout out your name right now. It was a lovely dinner, and it was great to meet the people that kind of made it possible for me to do this, I guess you could say. Went back to the hotel, went to sleep, and then the next day was the panel from hell and also my costume fitting. I think I was most excited for that. So I woke up the next day, and it wasn't the best start to the day because I put a power adapter into the wall and it went kaboom and almost killed me. I don't know what was wrong with my power adapter, but you can't use USA plugs. They have to be type C. So I brought a cheap power adapter, and that's the key. Don't get a cheap power adapter. And something went wrong and it shut off the power in my room. But I packed up my bag and then went to the desk and told them that it happened. Then I just left and didn't come back until midnight that night. So hopefully Larian didn't get charged for that. Oops. So I arrived at the studio that day a little bit early because one of the devs wanted to take me over to their motion capture studio, which is a much smaller building where they have a team that works on mostly the animations and motion capture animations. And it was really cool to be in this building because I got to see the big green screen room where you see Lae'zel's voice actress in one of the Larian Studios development update videos. And then I went back to the headquarters, and next thing you know it, Jimmy the Barbarian walks into the room, and he is a massive, massive man. And Jimmy is a powerlifter and strongman, and he actually, I'm not sure if I'm getting this exactly right, but I believe he was Belgium's strongest man, literally, in 2008 and 2009. And he also competed internationally in the USA and all sorts of different events. But the coolest thing about him is that he's also a fantasy game nerd. and we got a lot of one-on-one time because me and him were both kind of outsiders in the studio. So me and him got to chill a lot together throughout the day, and we also got, well, we didn't get fitted for our costumes together, but we got to put on our costumes together down in one of the basement rooms in Larian Studios. That sounded weird. And we basically just talked about fantasy games and The Witcher, and it was really cool. It's always cool, in my opinion, when there's a gamer or a fantasy nerd that's kind of outside your typical stereotype of what a fantasy nerd should be like. And Jimmy, of course, is outside of that stereotype. He's just a really cool guy, and I enjoyed my time with him, and he even posted on his Instagram for people to come subscribe to my channel, and said he's a subscriber and following me closely. So that kind of shows you the type of person that he was. I kind of pictured a strongman coming in and just not giving a shit about this fantasy nerd stuff, but this was the opposite. It was a dream come true for him to be at the studio, and also a dream come true for me, and we're kind of able to live that out together. So really cool. And if you're watching this, Jimmy, thank you for the good conversations. I'll leave a link to his Instagram below. Eventually, the time came when a taxi came and picked me up. I had to do a COVID test because we're getting close to my flight out of here, and you have to take tests within 24 hours. But after the COVID test, I got dropped off at the costume shop. And of course, as you walk up to the costume shop, you're in this medieval city of Ghent, and then you see swords and armor in the window. And this was just really cool. So after not realizing that the door was a push door and hanging outside in front of the costume shop for about 15 minutes thinking that they were locked, eventually she told me to push it because she saw me waiting out here. And then I met with Hilda, who is the costume lady for everybody at Larian Studios. She doesn't work for Larian. She runs this costume shop with, I don't know if it's her husband, but she's the lady who basically picked out things that we wanted, and then of course also helped us on the day of the panel from hell at the studio. And I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I got in there, but she pulled out some stuff and was kind of going for the Jon Snow look, which was really cool. It's kind of like a black knight. And then I found a two-handed sword in the shop, and she at first wanted to give me a dagger, but then when I saw this two-handed sword, she saw my eyes light up and instantly took it off the wall, and then somehow gave me a strap for it. And then next thing you know, I kind of looked like Jon Snow a little bit, I guess you could say. And speaking of Jon Snow, next to Sven and Jimmy, I am pretty damn small, and I'm not really a short guy. I'm definitely not tall. I'm pretty average, but when you stand next to Sven and Jimmy, Sven's got to be 6'7" or 6'8", and then you put armor and boots on him and he's even bigger. Then of course Jimmy's biceps is as big as my waist. I look pretty damn small, which was perfect because Jon Snow is smaller. Well, he's not really smaller than everybody, but he's smaller than a lot of the wildlings that he fights by. I then walked back to Larian Studios. I didn't wear the armor, don't worry, Hilda brought it later. And when I got there, the PR team, or the people that were helping me mostly, not just the PR team, were not there, and they showed up about 30 minutes later and were asking me where I was. They actually walked out to the costume shop to walk me back to Larian Studios. Like these people are just extremely generous. They didn't have to do that. I know I can figure out my way around the city, but they walked to the shop to get me. I didn't know that they were doing that, but just another kind gesture out of all of these people. This brings us to mid to late afternoon of the day of the panel, and the panel was going to start at 7 Belgium time. I think that's CET. And basically, I just hung out with Jimmy some more, talked to some more of the devs. Eventually, we got our costumes on. We did a little bit of rehearsal. And then actually, Sven or somebody decided to throw me in as a barbarian. That part with me yelling was not even a part until about, I don't know, an hour or two before the panel actually began. And I thought this was really cool because now I get to really be in the panel instead of just being a guy that's playing the game. The production team behind the cameras and the audio and the guys that are running the stream were absolutely amazing, super helpful to me. They made everything easy, always checking to make sure things were comfortable on everybody that was in the panel. And then we started getting real close to game time. Now, as you guys know, I wasn't planning on streaming the panel because I was in it, and this was kind of a bummer because those of you guys on my channel, it's nice to have a place where we can all get together and not just be mixed into a gigantic Twitch chat. So I wasn't planning on doing it, nor did I really have a way of setting up the stream. And also, it's just kind of weird to just straight up stream the panel because you feel like you're stealing content. At least when I stream it, I'm usually there and we talk about it, then we play Baldur's Gate after. Just straight up streaming the channel or streaming the panel just didn't feel right. But lo and behold, about 45 minutes before start time, Sven asked me if I was streaming it on my channel, and I said no, I don't even know how I could do it because I don't have my equipment. So he looked over at the production room where there was a bunch of people working in there, maybe 4 or 5 guys handling the stream and the audio and stuff like that, and told them, can you guys get Wolfheart stream running? And they said yes, and the next thing you know it, the Larian crew is running my stream. And I was very thankful for that, because during that stream, I actually made like $300 something from all of you guys that donated, and I wasn't able to thank you for that. So your guys' names should be popping up right about now in the video. And keep in mind, while I'm over there, guys, even though the vacation was paid for, I wasn't able to work. And the panel from hell is a big growth time for my channel. I usually stream right after, and I'm able to get very high numbers compared to what I'm used to. And it's usually really good for donations, and my videos get higher views, and I just wasn't able to do this. So having Sven tell me to stream it was super cool of him, and I guess I could say that I'm thankful for that, and thank you guys for those of you guys that donated. So now we are minutes away from the start of the panel, and me and Jimmy are in the front of the studio where the barbarians are supposed to walk in. I'm actually right behind Sven, behind a curtain, when you guys are watching the panel when he's talking to everybody at the table. I'm directly behind that curtain waiting for my part. I was with Jimmy. Jimmy was getting himself pumped up. He was ready for the role, and what a phenomenal performance. Decapitating the Mind Flayer was actually improvisation out of him. And then when Jimmy finished, eventually the camera crew gave me the cue to walk out, and then I let out my barbarian scream, which I hope you guys enjoyed. I looked a little awkward and said some stupid stuff. When Sven said welcome Wolfheart and Nick said welcome, I literally said welcome me. I don't know why I said that, and the reason why I said it was because I didn't know if the cameras were on me or if my microphone was turned out at the time, so them talking to me really threw me off, and I literally said welcome me. How stupid is that? So I'm not going to rewatch my performance because I feel like most of it is cringe. But with that said, eventually I took my spot, and then I just reminded myself that this is just a super cool opportunity to be playing with such a passionate team. Playing with Sven and Nick is a dream come true, to be a part of the panel from hell, and I tried to just let up and enjoy my experience. I'm not going to lie to you guys, when I took my stance at my computer, my body felt weird. It was like a mix between nerves and excitement, like extreme excitement, and also just adrenaline because I just screamed. And I was like, oh shit, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to even control my character. But after a couple minutes, things let up a little bit and I relaxed, and I just tried to have a good time. And thank you to you guys that were watching, because of course I peeked over at the chat and I could see people saying Wolfheart in the chat, and you guys made me feel all fuzzy inside, and you reminded me why I'm here and everything that I've done to try to get to this place, I guess you could say. And I just felt good being up there. Now, if I'm ever in another panel from hell, I think I'm going to be 100% completely comfortable. I think it's probably the same for the Larian crew too, because you guys can see the more panels that occur, the more comfortable that they all seem to be, and this was my first panel. But I had a great time. So many things went wrong during our gameplay. I died in the first encounter, of course. I can't believe I died in the first encounter, but that just made for better entertainment. And then we just kept playing, and to be honest with you guys, maybe the second half of our gameplay, I didn't even know really what was going to happen. We never even really rehearsed that at all, so I was kind of there just having a good time when we started getting to the Spider Queen area and the Underdark, and that was actually the best part of the stream, just having a good time and going with the flow. And then next thing you know, it's over, and the panel from hell has concluded. And it was really just a great feeling to have participated in it. Everybody was congratulating each other. And then Sven took maybe 15 to 20 of us out to eat at a really nice restaurant, and we had some drinks and some fancy food. Then I hung out with a few other people after that. Got back to my hotel pretty damn late. I was only able to get 2 hours of sleep, but I didn't even care. And then I flew home, and now I'm talking to you guys. Overall, it was an absolutely incredible experience, and I'm really happy that I got to go, because I can confirm to you guys that from what I saw, Larian Studios is a diamond in the rough for game development companies. And keep in mind that Larian Studios is not a small company. They have a lot of employees, and it kind of might make them look like a corporation, but they're so far from that, and they don't feel like a corporation. Sven has a vision, and he is the creative director and owner of the studio. He's passionate about it from what I can see, and he allows other people to be a part of that vision and also offer their opinion. And on the same subject, I can tell you guys that Larian Studios does look at community feedback. They look at the Reddit, they look at the Larian threads, and also you guys on my channel. They look at what videos are doing well, which ones are not received well. They look at the comments, they come over to the Discord server. And this is pretty clear when you look at the changes that they're making, in especially with patch 7 with Fog of War and stuff like that. Changes that many of us have been asking for. So that will be it. If you guys made it to the end of the video, definitely let me know below. I wanted to do an unscripted video and just talk about things off the top of my head so you guys don't feel like it's scripted and planned out. And if you're new around here, feel free to join the Discord server. The link is below in the video description. It's completely free. And I will catch you guys on a future video or live stream right here on this channel. Goodbye.